Hi, most of you know me, all the second years know me, but for those first years who don't, I'm Ita Ryan and I'm with UCC doing the advanced course with UCC. So I volunteered to give you a little talk today about the various tools that I've encountered in my year in the advanced course because I thought it might be some help to people. And the main thing that I want to tell you about is reference management software. So where that comes from is when I started off first, my supervisor sent me 5 articles or 5 academic papers, I should say. And I read them all and I read one a day and I took loads of notes and I sent all the notes back to my supervisors at the end of the week. And then they sent me 25 more articles. And I went, oh no, I really can't just keep storing all my notes in Word for Windows or Google Docs. It's just not really sustainable over all the years that I'm going to be here. So luckily my supervisors told me about reference management software, which I'd never heard of. And I found and started to use Zotero, which I'll tell you a little bit about now. So this is Zotero. As you can see, it's a fairly standard looking Windows program. The only thing that I want to point out here is that my library, anything that's in my library stays in my library. So for example, if we move this fixing the fixes into the test folder, it's still in my library. So that sometimes confuses people. Everything stays there. And then you can move it into the various, what they're called collections, into different collections and sub-collections. So you can have one for every kind of different paper you're thinking of writing or whatever. And it'll still be back in my library, which is handy when you want to search it. There's some very good search tools. When I was researching this this talk, I realized that there's a really good advanced search that I wasn't aware of. So if you're using Zotero, just be aware of that. There are a couple of settings that if you are using Zotero, you should know about. One is the preferences, the sync. So it's really important if you are using any reference management software to sync your stuff to the cloud, because you don't want to find that if you drop your laptop into the Atlantic Ocean 3 years in, that you're going to lose all of your papers and all of your notes. So I have an account with the Zotero online, at zotero.com or zotero.org, whatever it is. And it's linked in here. I've linked it in by adding it, and it syncs automatically to that. And if I use Zotero on a different device, I can just use that login and I can pull down all my stuff. I also have an app for it on my tablet so that I can, in theory, read papers at any time of the day or night, even if I don't have my laptop handy. Another setting that's important, as Zotero specific, is a cite setting. If you're using LaTeX and Overleaf, which you will be at some point once you're doing proper academic papers, you will need the BibTeX generic citation style, and that doesn't come pre-installed here. You have to actually go and get additional styles and get it that way. So just wanted to draw your attention to that so that if that happens, that you don't panic. Okay, so that's a couple of the Zotero settings. Here we are in the browser. And there's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about here. First of all, is you can see that it says UCC Library there. That's because I'm using a proxy to give my laptop the same access as it would have if it was to academic libraries like this, as it would have if I was sitting in my office in UCC. So the one I'm using is Easy Proxy. It's up here. You can see a little mortarboard there. Now, I presume you all have this already because we are in a pandemic and we're all at home. But just in case you don't, I thought I would let you know about it. So as well as that, I wanted to show you how you add in a file to Zotero from something like an academic website here. So we are going to put in a paper on Firebugs because I want to look at that tool, something I'm working on at the moment. So here it is, Firebugs, and if we click on it and then go up here to the corner, you can see there's a nice little friendly little icon there that we can click on. That will save it to Zotero. It'll save it to my library. Now we could change the location here, but I won't bother, but also it'll always end up, as we know, in my library anyway. So that's one way of doing it. Now, another thing you can do, which is even better, is if you have multiple results in your query, you can save them all. So in this case, there are 3 papers that were saved by that query for Firebugs. If we go up to our Zotero icon, we can see that it's now a little folder. And when I click on it, it gives me the option of downloading all 3. So I'm just going to download these 2 and say OK. So there you go. That's how you save to my library. And as you can see, it's downloading, and it's downloading the 2 PDFs. If the PDFs aren't there, it won't download them. But obviously, if they are there, it will. So we're now back in Zotero, and you can see that the Firebugs article is here. The paper is here. When I click on the arrow, I can see that the PDF is there. The PDF has been renamed. That's one of the plugins I have. I think it's .file does it. Renames it to like the author names and everything. And when I double click on it, it'll open in my PDF reader. I'm conscious that I've spent some time telling you how to get stuff into Zotero, and you might be wondering why you would bother. So this is where the magic happens. I've got a Word document open here, and we are going to add in a couple of references from Zotero. Now, when you install Zotero, it'll automatically put in a plugin for Word and for, I think, LibreOffice and whatever else you have. If it doesn't, you can poke around and see if you can use Google to find out how to fix that. So let's add a citation. Now, we'll start typing here. We'll bring up Firebooks, which we downloaded earlier. It appears here, and we click on it and press enter, and there's the reference. Now, the first time this happened to me, I was like, that's not a reference, and I was really fed up. But then I discovered that the magic happens a bit later. So let's add another citation. Type in Hala Assal. She's one of my favorite researchers in my area, and this is one of my favorite papers that she's written. Put that in there. And that's what we're gonna have lots more text here. This is actually going to be an academic paper. It'll be very, very long. And then at the end, we're going to say, right, well, let's do something with those references. Let's put them into the references section. And this is where the magic happens, because Zotero is just sticking them in for us. Now, this is making me very, very happy, because you can imagine typing all that stuff out yourself. Not much fun. Now, one of the things you need to do then is make sure that all of your references are correct. You will have to go through them yourself, at least unless you know someone who's happy to do that stuff for you, and make sure that all the details you need are in there and so on. And what do you do if you find that they are not there? For example, if it's missing an author or something. So what you should do then is you should go to Zotero and fix it in Zotero, and then just literally right click on your bibliography and update field, and it'll put it all back again, or add or edit bibliography there as well. Do the same thing. So I am not going to show you that now, but just so you're aware, if there is something wrong with your references, don't fix them there, because then every time you link back to Zotero, it'll be overwritten again. Fix it in Zotero, and then every time you get that reference from that Zotero, you'll get the right information. Another way to extract references, as you progress, you're going to want to write proper academic papers, and a way to extract the information you want in BibTeX format and use it with Overleaf and LaTeX is to right click on it and click on BibTeX generic citation style. Click OK, and that'll copy the BibTeX into the clipboard, and we will look at in a moment about inserting it into Overleaf. Another way to do it is if you have several papers and you want to add the BibTeX for all of them, you can do the same thing, but in this case you create bibliography from collection, and again, copy to the clipboard. And that's what's going to be our clipboard now when we go to Overleaf. This is Overleaf. It's a tool, an online tool that allows you to write academic papers. Many of you will be familiar with it, and those of you who aren't will be familiar with it very soon, I'm sure. I suspect we'll all hate it by the end of our PhD time. Anyway, it actually does save you a lot of work in writing LaTeX, so I guess that's why everyone seems to use it. We're now going to paste in our references that we picked up in Zotero. As you can see, it includes the abstract here, but when the references are generated for the actual paper, the abstract obviously will be ignored, so that's fine. If you want to get your refs.bib, which I generally do without all those references, or without all the abstracts, what you can do is you can install a plugin called BibTeX, Better BibTeX or something. In this case, I won't show you how to use that because it's unnecessarily complicated. I mentioned earlier that one of the reasons I like Zotero is because it allows me to keep all my notes together. But one of the things I use to help me with that is this specific PDF reader, which is called PDF Exchange Editor. Well, it's not a reader, it's an editor. One of the reasons I like it, or the main reason I like it, is because it allows me to highlight everything. And I like to be able to do that. When I'm reading through a paper, sometimes I want to be able to remember specific quotes or really good points that were made by the authors, and I don't want to have to reread the paper, and I don't want to have to type it out myself. So the highlighting tool sorts me out for that. So for example, supposing I were to decide that this particular paragraph was very important to me. I can't highlight it. Okay, let's get it right. So here we go. I can highlight that. And I'll now save it, and I will save this file. And when I reopen it in Zotero, you will see some of the magic that I'm talking about. Here we are magically back in Zotero, and here's my Firebooks. Now I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to click on Manage Attachments and Extract Annotations. What this will do is it'll go through the file, which I've saved with my highlighted thing, and it'll extract any highlights that are in it, and it will put them in here as a note for me. So you can hopefully see it here. Extracted annotations, firebugs, and automated approach, and it gives some details what paper it's from and everything. Now that doesn't look all that impressive, but when you think that I read 70 odd papers in my first year, and of those 70 odd papers, I probably took annotations for a lot of them, it's really nice to be able to read back on those. So what I wanted to be able to do was to do that, and also to take notes on the paper in general. So for example, just to type in like freestyle notes. So like I might want to say, this is a load of old cobblers. And I wanted to be able to keep all those notes for all of the files that I was working with, and to be able to maybe do a PDF or something where I could look at all my quotes and all my notes when I was starting a new project, or when I want to look at all related files on a specific subject. So that's what Zotero allows me to do. So we'll look at this. This is a reporting function that does it. So if I right click here on the firebugs and generate report from item, I'm going to get this nice little report here, which gives me the abstract for that paper, and it also gives me the tags, and it gives me my notes for some reason are here rather than there, but that's fine, and my extracted annotations. So, and also if I want to save that to a PDF, you can't. It saves as all kinds of weird things, HTML and stuff, which I don't care about. But what I can do is I can print it to Microsoft Print to PDF. I'm not sure if that's a default thing that comes with Windows or whether I installed it, but you can figure that out yourself. It's very easy. Okay. The real magic of the annotation thing is when you have a number of different files and you want to look at them all together. So I'm going to show you that here in this little test collection. I'm going to generate a report from there. And here you can see, just get the idea, you've got a lot of quotes, you've got a lot of notes, and you've got them all together, and you can read them over your breakfast or whatever suits you. Another very handy thing in Zotero, which I presume most reference managers have, is that you can export a collection, like a small number or medium-sized number of papers, and import them elsewhere. So I'm just going to export this little test collection, which has only got 3 papers in it. I'm going to save them on my desktop. So here we're going to open that CSV file that we just saved in Zotero, if I can find it. Desktop. Just 1 second now. Here we go, test.csv, open. And you just have to do some stuff about how it's delimited with a comma. There's probably ways you can default this in Excel. Finish. This might not at first sight look all that useful, but you now have a list of all of your files from, there could be several hundred if you're doing a literature review, for example. And if you hide all the intervening columns, which you're unlikely to need ever again, but of course that's never guaranteed, let's hide them. Then you can add in like a column for status. So whether you're going to review the thing or not. So we can say, yes, we're going to review this one. No, we're not going to review that one. Yes, we're going to review this one, and we reviewed it on the 1st of April, 2021, and so on. And like I'm in the middle of a literature review right now, and I have loads of columns in my Excel spreadsheet, but it was just so easy to get the files in there, and with all the information that I need, it's just really worth knowing about that. A last thing I wanted to show you, when I was doing research for this talk, I came across this woman, PhD Coffee Morning is the name of her YouTube channel, and she has a Twitter account and Instagram and stuff as well. It's really good. I really enjoyed this specific talk, 10+ applications to feel more on top of PhD. She mentions a lot of very useful things. A forest, for example, for productivity. She has a clock app that can help you manage your time. And she recommends a lab clock that can time a lot of different things at once, I gather, which sounds brilliant. So I would definitely check her out. It looks as though she's got an interesting channel with a lot of different talks, which I'm planning to watch a lot of them over the next while. So there's another top thing that you can look at. So finally, just to say, like, there are a lot of reference managers out there. There's EndNote, I think, and Evernote and Mendeley. You might find that one of them suits you best, but whichever one you use, spend a little bit of time finding the information on it that's available online. Maybe watch a couple of videos on it, and dig out some Q&As and all that sort of thing, FAQs. I know we're all researchers, so I'm kind of teaching you something you already know, but I think sometimes we forget to do those things for our tools as opposed to for our actual research. And you're gonna save yourself so much time, especially towards the end of your 4 years, if you have all your notes and you have them all in one place and you can look back on them. It's going to really be a lifesaver in 3rd and 4th year, I hope. I'm really depending on it that it will be. So best of luck with your research.